Hey guys, Jason, and today is January 1st, 2015. It seems kind of strange. 2014 is gone and it's a new year coming around. So, as I always do every year, I'm going back and looking at the last 12 months. What did Bitcoin bring forth? The good, the bad, the ugly, and what it meant for Bitcoin. So today we're going to be talking about the price, because sadly enough, whenever you speak of Bitcoin, the first thing that outsiders talk about is the price. It's as if the price on its own determines the success or fail rate of Bitcoin, which is not true, but it is perceived that way. As if in the stock market we look at a price of a stock and we say, oh well, for instance, maybe Cisco, they had a bad year because their stock fell 11.5%. Well, in reality, maybe they came out with a brand new product that revolutionized the market, but their ability to manage their debt to profit ratio affected their stock point outcome. Judging by just the price is a very inaccurate way of judging a company, but it's the way that outsiders and investors judge a product. So when we speak about Bitcoin, I want to bring this up. Bitcoin was at $732 on January 1st, 2014. Sadly enough, on December 31st, 2014, it was only $311. So when people hear this, they say, oh, Bitcoin is falling, it's over. Let me also reference, this is the first year that Bitcoin did not gain from the January 1st to the December 31st records. So it is kind of a sad year for Bitcoin. But let's also reference the fact that Bitcoin at this time period was experiencing what many people now at this point, and many analyses before or during this activity called it, we were in a bubble. So what happens is, you have all these situations going on, and you have insiders and outsiders, and people getting invested in Bitcoin, or just day trading for price manipulation. And so the price kind of fluctuated. We had a lot of news coming out, and Bitcoin's price rose to about $1,200. I think it was like $1,232 at its max peak. That's a lot of money for Bitcoin, and a lot of people were saying, well, it's being kind of overvalued right now. There's a lot of money being pushed into it. A lot of us, I remember myself, was pretty excited. I remember me and my friend Dolan sat around and thought, man, the price is exploding. This is good for Bitcoin. It brings news. And I think I talked about this story earlier on our show. In my senior year, we had this class for current events. And I was sitting in this class, and I remember we had to watch CNN student news every day. And one day they talked about how Bitcoin had collapsed. And me, as the Bitcoin know-it-all, I was like, well, no, it didn't collapse. Here is CNN trying to predict and say Bitcoin's collapsed because the price collapsed. No, the infrastructure of Bitcoin didn't collapse. The people that work on Bitcoin projects didn't collapse or stop. What stopped was investors throwing money into a product and pushing the price up well beyond its valued ratio or valued product amount. And when we refer to Bitcoin as a product, let's also reference that there's this big differential right now. People say it's a product because of the services that come out of Bitcoin, because of money, transferable abilities. We have people talk about, oh, it's a commodity because it's like gold. We even have people that say, oh, it's a currency because I can interchange it for items on the internet. What Bitcoin is exactly gets very much, I don't know what the word is, misconfigured, I guess, because there is no real true definition of what Bitcoin is. But to talk about the price, it's not a big deal. I know, and I get emails all the time. They say, Jason, the price is down. I thought, 2014 would be the year Bitcoin would kind of rise again. And I normally email people back and say, well, Bitcoin did rise. If you look at the infrastructure being built on top of the Bitcoin protocol, it's exploded. And I think that's what we got to look at. The infrastructure, if you look at when Bitcoin was $1,200 and the infrastructure behind it and the services, and you compare the price, now at $300, and you look at the infrastructure and the products behind Bitcoin, you would say, well, Jason, Bitcoin's obviously a lot more technologically advanced because of all these services and products and code that run on the Bitcoin protocol now that we didn't have when Bitcoin's price was higher. And so when people say and judge by the price, I say, well, look at what is actually being provided. For instance, let's look at it. If you judge gold by what it could do, and Bitcoin, let's say gold was worth $2,000, and this is wrong, but let's just say gold was worth $2,000 in 2000. And then in 2010 it was worth $500. But in 2000 gold wasn't being used for anything, and in 2010 it was being used in computers, which it is. Well then, and again, those are fictionary numbers, but what actually makes the product useful sometimes doesn't reflect itself in the price. And so as we move into 2015, and I know I'm still getting emails about this, and there's still discussion ongoing, but as you move into 2015, don't necessarily worry about the price. And I know I have people that email me and say, Jason, I bought in at $800 and I gotta sell out. And I remind you, never sell out if you bought too high. Unless I mean, when we talk about investing, you should never invest money that you can't afford to lose, and that's the problem a lot of people have when they invest. But if you don't have anything to lose, keep the money there, because a lot of analysis I read say, in 10 years Bitcoin's going to be doing good. The products behind it are amazing. I mean, some of these sites, Microsoft of all companies, I just did a video that is accepting Bitcoin now. It's moving forward, and as such, so will the price. One last thing to reference, if people don't remember, one of the things about Bitcoin is there's new Bitcoins being created every day. Every 10 minutes, there's 25 Bitcoins being created. So that causes more supply of currency, or commodity, whatever you want to refer to it as. So when there's more supply and there's not, an increased demand for that supply, the price is reflected to move downward. So just something to think about, and I think we're going to have a good 2015 year. Don't worry so much about the price when we look at things. Worry about what's being created and improved on Bitcoin. And if you look at that, you'll see Bitcoin's doing great. Hey guys, have a great 2015. I'm going to try to give you guys better news coverage than I did last year, and let's get to Bitcoining.